Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
It's Barra here, and you are listening to the Iron Hour podcast in the wake of the Irons 5-0 romping over Peterborough Sports. And the Turbines have, in fact, been blown away, Marco. Thank you for joining us, our regular panelist, Marco Poliga.
Yeah, I know we weren't all blown away with beyond negative comments on Humberside, but no, really good result. Like we've just been saying, man, it was more a job that needed doing, and I think we did it with passive flying colours. I mean, Butler said after the game it could have been 10, and with all due respect, probably could have been. So yeah, job done, and let's have a nice positive podcast, Barry.
Is that you letting me know you're there early doors? You're getting those bad.
Oh, there's more to come.
2 in 2 minutes. And our, not so regular panelist, but he is becoming that. I mean, Ben Maidman, are you making the step up from guest to panelist? What's the situation?
Well, that's not on me. That's on you, for you to decide.
Marco, what's the jury say?
Oh, I'm all in. Who could be worse than Max?
Exactly. He's more liked than Max, but that doesn't really say much, does it?
Yeah, we like Max for the edginess. You never know what he's going to
do. Usually he's a safe pair of hands, but yeah. Okay, right. What do you want to talk about, lads? Do you want to talk about Scunthorpe's 5-0 victory? Do you want to talk about Good Friday? Because we have had a podcast since then, but we haven't really flogged it really as much as we probably could have. Do you want to talk about Kidderminster running away with it? Do you not want to talk about football? What's the vibe, Marco?
Yeah, I'm just here for a therapy session. No football. Let's just talk about how we win the league on Saturday and everything's okay. Then we can just go.
He touched me here.
No, let's talk about him. Obviously, with Roberts, the news saying he was happy to stay at the club, getting it confirmed about the Gateshead deal. So, but no, I think we've definitely got to start with the 5-0 victory over Peterborough and my bet win.
Yeah. What did you back? Did you have over 3 goals?
Scunny to win by over 3 goals, 9-1. The definition of we don't condone sensible gambling, aren't we?
Thank you.
So you definitely did celebrate the 5th goal then.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, that was a nice little win. But like I said, obviously we are going to discuss the game. I said to Baron Pizza Hut of all places before the game. I can just see him doing a job on them. I think they owed us a reaction, if that makes sense, after a previous game. So look, I think that they will have been hurting. And I think if you're a Peterborough fan, it was a really bad time to play us on Saturday. So no, I was really positive result. And like I said earlier, I really do think we could have witnessed possibly the biggest win at Glanford Park on Saturday if chances had gone our way. Big shout out to their keeper, who I thought was going to cost me my money, and nearly got a few expletives shouted at him. But no, really positive result. And look, we need to take that form into the playoffs.
Their keeper, he learned a lot about the women in his life from you on Saturday.
No, I wasn't that bad. Like I said, I was demure. Is that right? I was very calm.
Cutesy.
Yeah, I was very calm on Saturday. Again, it's how I imagine people will be at Hereford on Saturday. There's not really much riding on it. Sorry to say, everyone. I don't think we're going to do it.
Don't be negative.
Look, it's going to be nice to watch a game and not have that jeopardy. Looking at other results, I know people still will be, but we're going there with no expectations, and any result, a win there would be a tough ask. So if we can get something there, setting us into them playoffs, it'd be a really good result. So,
and of course, let's be honest, Ben, it could be a dress rehearsal for a week's time. We could be playing Hereford again in the playoff semi-finals.
Yeah, it's like a really. Although there's not a lot riding on it for us, it feels like, because of the massive job that we have to do, and others have to fail for us to win the league. It's one of those where there is a lot riding on it for Hereford. I think, are they level on points? We could have a massive say on who we play in the playoffs. So it's one of those where there's not. Look, sorry to be negative, we're probably not going to win the league. We've left ourselves too much to do.
You think? You reckon? The bookies have us 100-1, mate. What's the giveaway?
Get Marco to stick £2 on it then, because if he's...
That's mental. It should be a lot more.
tried to put £10 on earlier, but William Hill suspended my account when I tried to put the bet on. Gone, what does Barra know?
You're gonna have people at your door with a straitjacket.
It's a massive.
Yeah.
It's a massive job to overturn. Stranger things have happened, but I think Farsi have lost. Is it now 17 in a row? If they
I thought it
even,
was 14, so if it's 17,
it
it's
might be 14,
crazy.
it might be 17. I didn't count it, so one of the parents at my lad's football did, so it's on him.
But to be fair, he has got more fingers than 10. So.
It is a massive job for us to overturn. And even if Farsley, by some miracle, even got a point, Kidderminster still have to lose at Southport. So, yeah, it's not the nicest that we're not going to go there and try and have a bit of a party and a lot riding on it, but there is a lot riding on it for the playoffs, so could be interesting to see who we play.
It is 17 consecutive defeats.
I'll tell him he was right.
Yeah,
Look,
fingers are coming in handy.
I did a bit of digging the other day, and I saw we only had 2 players on the bench as well. It's no secret. It's bleak at Farsley at the minute. We know that.
It's not good.
No, it's not ideal. So look, we can't expect anything from them. Wouldn't it be fantastic? Even if we didn't go up, it'd be good just to see them get a win. Obviously, we speak to George regularly and all of Farsley guys, so we do wish them all the best. But no, look, it's.
But we also speak to the Brackley guys, so.
We do speak to the Brackley guys, but not on Saturday. Saturday. But yeah, look, it's one of those things. We're going to go into Saturday. What will be, will be. Like Ben said, stranger things have happened. But look, there'll be a lot of Iron fans regretting not be going on Saturday if it does. But I'd be happy to be proved wrong.
I'm gonna set the scene here. And so I was in the Iron Bar before kick-off on Monday. Me and Marco obviously having his customary pint. Why wouldn't he? The team sheets come through, and I show him it, and he obviously he works out that Tyler Denton's probably playing on the wing, and he just turns to me and says, "Fantastic! What a brilliant time to be experimenting with the team." So Ben, what do you make of that one?
Yeah, it did baffle me a little bit when I looked at the team sheet. I have Toby pestering me bang on 2:00. Quick, is the team out yet? Is the team out yet?
Later and later every week, isn't it? What's that?
Well, yeah, that's how it's getting.
I posted it just before the minute silence on Monday.
But it was one of those where 3 fullbacks, what could happen here?
Well, he's been told not to play 3 centre backs. So he's got. I'll take that on the chin.
We can find a way around it. Yeah, it was an interesting choice to play Denton out on the wing. I know that in his younger days, Butler has said before that, or it might have been Jimmy last year, he played out on the wing a little bit in his younger days. So it was one of those. It's probably strange to see him out there because he's usually fairly reliable defensively. And he gives us that little bit going forward, but it's not one that I'd like to see too often as an out and out winger, really.
Marco?
I liked it. I quite like the Denton experiment. And look, it's no secret Butler is a defensive coach. It must be his wet dream to get a winger who can also play defence.
He's just there going, Matt Beck, can you play on the wing?
But no, look. Denton's the beauty of Denton is I feel like you could play him. Obviously, played him a centre for Kings Lynn, played out wide on the other week for us. Obviously, out and out left back. But he's one of those players where you think you're at least going to get a 7 or 8 rating every time he plays. I've been a big fan of him ever since he came to a club. Possibly contender for Player of the Season again this year. But it's good to know that we have options. But was obviously thought it's going to be a game where they're not going to threaten us too much. So it is a good opportunity to throw Denton in there and see if it's an option. So, yeah, look, we were tied because Beeson had to be through the middle. So we did need someone to put out there. And for one reason or another, he sees Carlton as that middleman now. So, look, I thought it worked. He got an assist. Yeah, no, a big fan of it. But look, like Ben said, hopefully we don't have to see it again. But it's very good to know that he's got that feather in his cap.
Ben, I guess the other thing from the team sheet is Kean Scales being demoted to the bench was a massive surprise to me. And I didn't see that one coming. I know he didn't have the best of games on Good Friday, but who did?
Yeah, not many. Yeah, he had that little stint at the sort of the start mid-season, didn't he, where he was out the team a little bit, Scales. But he's another one that's been fairly consistent all season. You know what you're going to get from him. He's going to work. He's going to work so hard, which most of the time probably earns a spot in the team. I've been quite critical of him in the final third at times. I'd like to see him score a few more goals. But yeah, one of those where that midfield three, especially for the last probably 20 games, has been fairly settled. So yeah, it was interesting to see a change in that middle. But it was one of those where we have left a lot to do losing at Kings Lynn. So it's kind of maybe if you are going to experiment, a team that have got nothing really to play for, as Peterborough didn't, Peterborough Sports didn't. It's probably, I mean, if you come away from that and you end up losing and you sat there with egg on your face, but if you come away, it's not a bad thing to give different players different timing, different kind of roles. There might be times. I mean, Butler's alluded to in his interview about how rectifying the mistakes of previous away games and maybe going with a bit of height. So we might see something different away at Hereford. So yeah, I think there's a time to experiment, but it's one of those where you've got to be very careful because it can backfire massively.
Of course, we'll get on to more, preview the Hereford game very shortly. But Marco, let's just stick with the lineup on Monday. The other big headline was the fact that Danny Whitehall back in the team starting. How good was that to see, and how well do you think he did, considering he's still not quite 100%, is he? Let's be right.
Yeah, brilliant. And I don't think there's any Iron fan who didn't want to see him start. Look, it's great to see he's still not 100% fit Danny Whitehall, but look, an 80% fit Danny Whitehall is better than what we've been playing with the last 7, 8, 10 weeks. So no, and he looked sharp. I think he did look quite sharp. He just gives you that whole other dimension. Even with him not having the best of the games, we still looked a lot stronger, as that sounds. We were speaking before in Iron Bar, as tall and physical Beck is, he hasn't got that nastiness.
Yeah.
Beck, if you could put Danny Whitehall's brain into Beck, it'd be some beast, a scary player, because Beck has all the attributes to be a real nasty lower league forward. But I just can't help feel that the defenders every time I play against him must come off the pitch saying, "What a nice fella." Do you know what I mean? He's just not got that threat. He could be nasty, but look, that's something that Whitehall does offer. He keeps the two centre halves occupied on his own rather than playing two up front. I think you see more with Roberts on the ball when Whitehall's playing because they've got more to worry about. And no, look, Whitehall. If Whitehall is not with us in these playoffs, I don't think we win them, and I think that's how vital he is.
I would agree with that. Right, let's talk about full time then, Ben. Full time whistle goes. I think the news probably filtered through to the players at that point that things haven't gone our way elsewhere. They probably knew before then, let's be honest. There's a lot of information being passed to players throughout games, so they probably knew. But there was obviously a lap of appreciation, as we're calling it in today's woke world, where the players got a chance to walk around the pitch and get a round of applause. A good moment, but I couldn't help but think Monday should have been the day we were lifting that trophy.
Yeah, it's one of those. Want to? I mean, speaking for myself, I've been up and down the country all year following, all season, sorry, following. So it's one of those where it's nice to give them a bit of a clap after a 5-0 win, but it's like you say, it's one of those where we feel it's just got away from us, and it's really disappointing. We could have won 10-15-0 if it wouldn't have made you feel absolutely amazing and have to give them a roaring reception coming round at the end. It was a bit of a fairly muted one, and it felt like that from the players as well. They're obviously, you can see that they're desperate to win the league, but it looks like it's not going to happen. So One of those where it's fairly muted from both sides. But the support this season from the fans has been unbelievable. To average 4,000 home at home back-to-back seasons, I think the fans probably deserve that little show of appreciation, and then to give a little bit back to the players to hopefully give them that encouragement to go on into the playoffs, and hopefully we can take that form into the playoffs as we go to a really difficult game on Saturday at Hereford, and then beyond that, it's looking like.
Marco, what do you think Butts were saying to them in that huddle? Do you think he was saying 4 weeks from now, do not be feeling like this?
Yeah, well, look, you hope so. You hope there's some strong words. I think the team as a collective and a unit have only got themselves to blame. Look, it was in our hands. We had very winnable games that we just couldn't get over the line. If he's true to his word, he's not seen the league yet anyway. So probably thinks, "Where's the trophy? Am I bringing it later on?" But no, look, it's.
He's there going, I wish someone had told me we were third.
I'd have tried at Radcliffe. But no, look, it is one of them. Let's just hope we learn from our mistakes last year. Look, I like Butler, and I wasn't convinced at the start of the season he was the right man. But I do think with what we've got, look, he's going to make mistakes. It's his first job, men's management. There'll be more to come. But yeah, look, playoffs is a lottery. I fancied us, yeah, but I fancied us last year, and just look how that went. So it's a tough one. And look, you can't be too harsh on them because we still have had a really good year with a lot of good results. But it is annoying. But like I said, we didn't lose the league at Radcliffe. It's the sticky ones in the season where just not being able to get them over the line. That's what's cost us. And it'll be the same for Kidderminster or Brackley because out of three of us, all three of us have a good argument to go up. So look, it is what it is, and we'll see.
I said last week, Ben, I actually said it to you on the podcast, that for me, I think Butler's done a reasonable job this season. He's a rookie manager. His first season in men's senior professional football. I thought he's done a relatively admirable return. I don't know what more we could have really expected from a manager in his first job if we finished third. I think that's probably slightly above what my pre-season prediction was. I had us finishing fifth. I do understand a lot of people thought we'd win the title, but for me, I think there's a bit of realism about it. And this was his first season in senior management, and the board are asking a lot, expecting him to return with a title. Am I right or am I wrong there?
Yeah, I think it's fair. As I've said time after time, I expected us to win the league. It's hard. I mean, to win any league, you've got to have an unbelievable amount of consistency to win the league. I think we've probably only lost 7 maybe in the league this season.
Yeah.
And it's still probably not going to be good enough. To win any league, it's so incredibly hard. I mean, the only time I've seen us win a league is that unbelievable season in 06-07. So, and how consistent we was there. Everywhere we went, it never looked like we were going to lose. I've not felt that really everywhere we've been with this team. There's places where you feel like, oh, we could maybe slip up here with that team in 06-07, which sets a standard for what I know of a team winning the league. Everywhere you went, you felt we could get something here. So in his first job, you just know that he would have been desperate to win the league, because that's a massive thing to have on your CV, isn't it? First job in men's football, and you win a league, it gives you the opportunity probably to go, well, surely maybe a couple of league clubs will be looking at me if I've won a league in my first season.
No, I think it's a real good point, and that Max said previously 3 or 4 weeks ago on the podcast when it was in our own hands, and he was mentioning that 06-07 team, and he was saying we was on about the pressure, and he was saying I can't remember what player it was, but he said we were in that change room, and every single game that they went into, they knew that he looked around him and knew that they could handle the pressure. And I don't think we've got that squad at the minute.
I think Crozza said that on our podcast.
Crozza, yeah, sorry, yeah, it was Crozza. And look, and you fully believe that. And they had characters, a lot of strength, and a lot of grit. And look, what really annoyed me with Kings Lynn is I won't say bullied, that's harsh. But it did just seem determination, which is what's more frustrating. I don't think it's dissimilar to Kidderminster away, where I thought we actually got outplayed. But Kings Lynn just seemed we got outfought, which was more frustrating. In that change room a minute, does it have those characters where, like I said, it's a never say die? And I'm not sure we do at the minute. And look, it's no secret. There's a lot of players will be out of contract next year. I think we'll see a very different squad. And whether that's in the National League North or the National League, I really do hope we just sign. I know it gets said a lot, but like your Dawsons, your Bishops, we just need a bit of grit. And whether that's signing players from the National League North who have been there and done it. Look, next year we might not have a choice. We will be a mid-table National League North team. And I just hope we sign the players that align with that rather than ones dropping down from the leagues thinking that they're too good for this level and wanting to get out.
Well, don't write the season off yet, mate. We still have a very good chance of getting promoted via the playoffs. I would think we would probably be one of the favourites to lift the trophy.
Yeah, look, I mean, and even so, look, we'll get promoted next year. It's no secret about the big wages. A few might be leaving, but like I say, it's still the same. Still goes. I hope we sign the players for that division rather than Scunthorpe possibly on paper a League Two team. We were, but I feel like now is really important. The fact we need players wanting to play for Scunthorpe, wanting to get us into the right place where we should be, rather than not necessarily a stepping stone, but wanting to use us to get out.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to chuck a name in there, Ben. His name's just escaped me. Cody Johnson, is that his name? Number 30 from Peterborough Sports, from Kings Lynn Town. What's his name? Cody. What's his name? Who the hell is he? Cody who? This is going perfectly. Someone help me out. Let me have a look.
Kings Lynn. What, were you impressed with him?
Cody Johnson. Yeah, that's him. Kings Lynn. He was a name that I was impressed with, and that kind of real box-to-box, gritty midfielder, a name that I'd chuck in there for next season.
I want Kidderminster's centre forward.
Hemmings.
Hemmings, yeah. Hemmo.
No.
Kuya?
See, a lot of it would have said Hemmings. I want the other one, the captain. It's got like a double barrel, double A, B, something.
What a podcast we are.
He had
the guy that missed
the incident in the crowd. Yeah, he missed a couple of sitters, but this is what I mean.
But what a sitter!
No, someone of that ilk. I think we need a bit of nastiness and a bit of spine and bottle. And I think that is one thing we've definitely been missing. For Scales, Rowley, Clunan as well to some extent, we have missed that bite.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does.
Yeah, and when you play Beeston up front as well, Beeston is another one who I think is technically a very good player. But I think when he's up front, and if he's up front on his own isolated, he definitely doesn't have that nastiness in him. So
we've got it in the back four. I think the back four is I'm really content with. And look, you don't get what Fitzsimmons on 27, 28, 29 clean sheets. It's unheard of. It's fantastic. And look, and I think that's because of the, excuse me, French, bastards that we have in defence. Your Evanses, your Boyces, and your Cougars, they're all very physical, and it's just no shit. It's no nonsense. But if if you could bring one or two of them into the centre of the park, obviously leading from up front, I think we just look a lot better shape. Don't get me wrong, Scales' work rate, Rowley's work rate has been phenomenal, and you need players like that. But just a big bastard, a nasty bugger in the referee's ear. I think that going forward, that is something we really need to be looking at.
It's something that I feel like I've picked up on probably for the last 2 seasons, especially in midfield. That the height in midfield, when you play Clunan and you play Scales in there, you lose a lot of height. For as much as they work hard, you can't replace the height, can you? When balls have gone into the box, and although the defence, there's a lot of height in there, and they can do a good job of clearing it, but when it's in the middle of the park, you sometimes just feel that we need someone that can get on the ball and just hold people out of the way. And we do lose a bit of that in midfield because of the height, because they're quite smaller players. Although Rowley's been really consistent in there this season, ever since he's come into the team. It's something that I do feel like we give away, especially in the middle of the park.
Draw a line on the review then of the Peterborough Sports game, and let's look ahead to Hereford on the final day of the regular season, and we'll kick off with our usual spy in the camp. Well, our spy in the camp this week is another podcaster. So thank you for joining us, Tom Goff from the London Bulls, Hereford FC podcast. Thanks for joining us, Tom. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, good to be here. Obviously, massive game coming up on Saturday. So yeah, it's going to be a funny one, but it's good to come on and talk about it.
We had KD on earlier on in the season, obviously from the same podcast, and it was that time of the season where things were kind of not going right but not going wrong. It was very much, Goldilocks and the Three Bears baby porridge scenario. Everything was just about in the middle. How are things right now going into the final game of the season? Because you are coming off the back of that heavy derby defeat, 5-1 against Kidderminster Harriers.
Yeah, I mean, I think Good Friday we had Leamington. We beat them 3-0. It was a comfortable game, and okay, it was always probably going to be, but we lost to them on New Year's Day. So we didn't know how it was going to go. Just happy that we did well. And then going into that Kidderminster game, and we conceded 2 minutes in, so you sort of get a idea of how the day's probably going to go. But it's funny, we always react well to big losses like that or tough games like that. And as there's so much to play for on Saturday for both of us. Essentially both teams need to win. It doesn't matter about anything else. Any other we've talked ourselves about permutations, but it's all about winning, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. Right, Easter Monday, then we touched on that game. I want to get a feeling for what the atmosphere was like in the crowd as those goals were going in. Was it just a state of shock, or was it a case of, I mean, I don't know the history of the recent seasons, but was there an inkling of, here we go again, I can't believe this?
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere was amazing in the away end the whole game. Hereford fans never stopped singing, even when we were 5-1 down. Everybody stayed after the game to clap the players and the manager. But yeah, I think because that first goal was so early on, it was almost like because Boxing Day against Kiddie, we lost 3-0, and we conceded pretty early on that day. We didn't play very well, and it just felt like deja vu. It just felt like we're doing the same thing again, and then we went 2-0 down not long after. But then we scored to make it 2-1, and it changed the game. And we had so many chances, and we could have gone in at half time 2-2. And that I don't know. Look, you don't know what would have happened in the second half, but yeah, it definitely had a feeling of yeah, we've been here before on Boxing Day, and you did start to worry.
I can see that. I think all fan bases are similar, aren't they? Just looking at the league table, so Hereford currently in seventh by the skin of their teeth, hanging on. Curzon Ashton hot on their tails with the same point, 76. 18 goal difference versus Hereford's 19. So there is literally one goal in it as it stands. Not forgetting Buxton in ninth and even Spennymoor down in 10th, who could in theory catch you because they are 3 points behind but have that superior goal difference. What is the pressure like? What's the situation at Hereford FC? Is a playoffs a must?
It's such a funny one. No, I don't think it probably is really, because for us at the moment, it's just about the progress. We can make the excuses of, well, we haven't quite got the budget, we're part-time, but then you look at other teams that have gone and done it, who are part-time. Obviously, Tamworth being a great example, but it's not a must. But it's a case of I think if we don't get in, we've wasted a great opportunity. Not just because we're there, but because in February we were third, and that's hard to take, and then we lost a couple of games, and I don't think we won in four then, and it just suddenly that was it again, and we were ninth. It's funny being in seventh, level on points. We were before Easter, going into that Leamington game. That was the situation. So nothing's really changed in that regard with that win and loss on the weekend. So yeah, look, it's tight, and yeah, goal difference is probably going to make some some of the say on who ends up getting into the playoffs and who doesn't.
I think it probably will, looking at the league table. I wonder if I could just pick your brains on something, Tom. So, the National League North, I think it's a little bit of a wasteland, a graveyard of bigger clubs that have really hit some trouble. I mean, I look at Kidderminster Harriers, Scunthorpe United, Hereford, Chester, some really big clubs in there. I guess my question would be, what's it like being a fan of a club that, in your case, did go bust and was a Phoenix club reborn? And how much does it mean to just have something to support on a Saturday? Because I think we get lost sometimes, especially Scunthorpe fans. We forget just how close we were to the wall.
Yeah, and I think I mean it is. That's when the season's going on, all you're thinking about is the football is winning, is getting into the playoffs, going up, whatever it is. I mean, a couple of seasons ago, it was trying to stay up was what we were trying to do. But no, I think when you sort of sit back, and especially at the end of the season, you sort of sit back and you think, yeah, we've got a football club, and that journey that we've had over the last 10 years, of reforming, having the 3 promotions in a row, and now we're stuck in this league. It's hard, but it was always going to be hard. And I think it's made harder by the fact that you've got these other big clubs. It's not like, when we in the other leagues. I mean, when we came up from the Southern Division Prem, we Kings Lynn finished second to us. They weren't that far behind, but we had 100 and something points. I think they got to 100 as well. It was easy, but not, obviously Kings Lynn were there as well. But when you think about obviously yourselves, Kidderminster, Chester, it- like it's going to be hard for any team to get out of the league. I mean, you guys have seen this, obviously. Let's be honest, we all thought that you'd go straight back up. And okay, it's harder than that, and it's not as straightforward as that. But for me, it's purely because, like, last season with Tamworth, and just a team beats you that season because they do, and that's it. And then you're stuck because it's that thing of one up and then one in the playoffs. Well, playoffs are lottery anyway, aren't they? So especially one-off games. So yeah, it's great to have a team, as you say, to just to support, and I think that's what we'll all concentrate on at the end of the season. But right now, it's there's nerves, there's pressure.
There are nerves and there are pressure, and there are things to play for, certainly for Hereford. Let's talk about a couple of players that probably caught the eyes of some other fans. I mean, for me, apologies if I pronounce his name incorrectly, but Cisse, is that right? Cisse?
Yep.
Yeah, Cisse looks to be a real threat from midfield. I think he's chipped in with 10 goals in 42 games. He's been one that's taken my eye. And of course, Andy Williams as well, chipping in with 9 goals.
Yeah, I mean, Cisse is great. I think Kidderminster found a way to stop him. And if you guys do, then that's a big outlet for us gone, because he does score goals, but he's just, he's got the pace. He can beat people, and he can get a decent crossing. So he is so dangerous. It's funny with Andy Williams because he's only been coming off the bench, so he scored those goals really in limited minutes. And I think the other person that's come through that we well, probably two really, that we signed in January and
Jaden White,
February, which is
Jaden
White,
yeah,
and Ramey Campbell, who've both, I think they've combined for maybe 18 goals in there since then. So, Jaden White though is just, it's just been unbelievable, and he was probably our best player really on Monday against Kidderminster. Not that it's saying much, but he, they still couldn't really cope with him properly. And Ramey Campbell is one of those strikers who's strong. He's sort of tough, and it's probably something we've missed all season, really.
Just before you go then, Tom, do you want to hit us up with a score prediction? And also, do you think you'll make the playoffs?
Well, I think my score prediction is going to be a draw. I think both teams are going to be pushing for it very open. It'll be 2-2. And I don't think that's going to be enough for us to get into the playoffs. So, but, you can hope.
You can hope indeed. Who knows? This could even be dress rehearsal for the playoff semi-final. So who knows?
Yeah, hope so.
Right, thank you very much for your time, Tom. And we'll see
Appreciate
you in Hereford.
it. Thanks.
Okay, so they were the thoughts there of Tom Goff from the London Bulls Hereford FC podcast. Let's kick off with you, Marco. We talked earlier on about the possibility of a little bit of experimenting or a little bit of change of tactics for this game. Do you think he will go with three at the back, considering what he said in his post-match interview on BBC Radio Humberside?
Potentially. Look, it can't hurt. Boyce is a very reliable defender. Before Evans came in, was having a fantastic season. Look, it can't hurt. We're in a really good position that we shouldn't be dropping down to fourth with the goal difference and everything, even if things do sort of go tits up. So it looks like minimum we should have that third nailed.
Can I just jump in and just put a second question to you? If we get to the final and it's an away game at somewhere like Brackley, considering we won 3-0 playing three at the back earlier on in the season, do you think it's a good way just to bed that back in?
Oh, in a final, yeah. In a one-off game, 100%.
Yeah. So this would be a good opportunity to give it a whirl, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you could say that. Look, those three are colossus at the back. They really are big physical threats, like we've just been mentioning. My only worry would be the right back situation. If we were playing a five, whether that's Kelly or if that's Starbuck, it really doesn't have that attacking threat, and then they're quite isolated. That'd be my only worry. Whether Rose is back, we've heard nothing about Rose's injury, so that's quite worrying. That would be my only sort of question mark.
Yeah.
Would I be annoyed or aggrieved if we did play a back five? No, and I can understand it in a final. It's going to be cagey, and look, we're planning for a final. We've got a semi. Yeah, I did this last year, but no, I can fully understand him maybe experimenting, not to the extent where he did on Saturday with Denton playing left forward wing. But no, I can definitely see a back five, and no, I think that Hereford might be a little bit pissed off on Saturday, hopefully.
Ben, if it is to be 3 or 5 at the back, I think that right back is a position we need to talk about. I thought Joe Starbuck actually had a very decent game on Monday. I thought he was very reliable at the back and actually looked to get us forward. So I was quite impressed with him. But it is a very different thing to being away from home and needing to be that outlet on the wing. I think whoever you play at right back, whether it is Starbuck or in fact Kelly, there are pros and cons to both. I mean, with Kelly being obviously left-footed, it narrows the pitch massively, and I'm not sure that's what you want to do if you are looking for width from those wing backs. So I think that would be my biggest concern there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, sometimes when Kelly plays in there, it's one of those where it can either look really good when he's in there and he has the time and space to whip balls in on his left foot and shift it over. It's not very often you see him go try and take his man on down the right hand side and put one in with his right foot. So, like you say, it really does feel like it narrows the pitch down when he does play there. Obviously, Starbuck the more natural, the right footer. I feel like on against Peterborough Sports, it was a bit similar to the last game where he started, where
Leamington.
Yeah, he struggled a bit for the first maybe 15, 20 minutes. It took him a little while to sort of settle in. But then once he did settle into the game, I thought he looked a little bit more comfortable, and we were obviously cruising at that time. It maybe be a bit more interesting to see him when there was a game with a little bit more edge to it, a little bit closer, more competitive. When you're playing in that role and you're 3-4-0 up, it's probably going to be quite comfortable for you to look decent in that team. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes in a much tighter game. I expect he'll play in the Hereford game. Whether that be right wing back, whether that be right back, we'll have to find out.
Yeah, I think real good points there with Kelly. I think when he's in that right back role, you're either going to get a 3 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. It depends. It literally does depend on the game. Look, it's an experiment. I thought Starbuck, I am not his biggest fan. I don't think he's looked comfortable at all. But Monday I'm with Barrett. I thought he looked really good. I sort of eating my hat, but I know he only needed to be relied upon 4 or 5 times, but when he was called upon, he did it really well and literally no mistakes. An argument for man of the match, which is mental.
Yeah, I agree. I had him as one of my man of the match.
Yeah, well, look, he's not in the team of the week this week somehow. So,
but he did against
Edmonton. Yeah, look, I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, the right back dilemma is very interesting. It's very interesting. Look, I know Butler obviously rates Kelly. I think we all do. Kelly's a very good player. And if he was to make a mistake at right back, we wouldn't begrudge it. He's out of position. But yeah, if it in a back 5 would worry me. It would concern me. I remember that first game of season against Brackley. I thought Ross Barrows was the next in Roberto Carlos. I can't think of any good right backs.
Yeah, Roberto Carlos.
The very famous left back. But no, he was fantastic. And I thought going forward this season.
Gary Neville,
yeah. But I thought this season job done. And Barrows was sort of working in that back 5. It's something we've maybe been missing with from an attacking point of view from right back. But look, we got Rose in, did a very good job. Very different player to Barrows. But no, yeah, it's look, it'd be interesting to see. Playoffs is very different. But let's just focus on Hereford in the semi before talking about finals.
Well, we heard from Tom there saying about it is a must-win game, really, and he probably doesn't think they'll do it. He's banking on a 2-2 draw. Ben, how do you see this one going down? Because do you think I'm just trying to gauge on what the atmosphere will be like for a Scunny fan. Is there no hope going into this game, or is there that little bit where you go, well, you never know if Kiddie go 1 down early doors, anything could happen?
You never know. You never know that. It's probably not going to happen, but if there's a chance, you've always got to try and be a little
You're
bit.
telling me there's a chance.
It's probably over. It's probably over, but that doesn't mean it's certain. So imagine you've given your ticket away or you've sold your ticket after it's selling out, and Brackley go and draw with Farsley, and then Southport roll Kidderminster over, and we go and win. Like just imagine how you'd feel. So,
that flag would be at full mast, wouldn't it?
I mean, I don't miss him anyway, but I could not live with myself if that happened. So, yeah, there's a chance. You never know, but it's a very, very slim chance.
If it happens, ladies and gentlemen, I will invite you now. You can hang your flag off my full mast, because I swear to God, it's just not happening. It's just, and I love it I really would. There's nothing I would love more, but it's not happening, is it?
No, mate, it's not. But let's have a score prediction before we draw the podcast to a close. Marco, how do you see this one going?
I quite like the gentleman's agreement with 2-2. Score draw, I'm going to be, just to be an arsehole, I'm going to go 1-1.
Why break the habit of a lifetime, Marco? Ben, what do you reckon?
1-0 Lion.
That was a 1-0 Lion. Your sound just went a little bit croaky there, but you're going 1-0 Lion. I'm going to
win the league.
Do we win the league, Ben?
And we win the
You
league.
can go first, Marco.
No, if 1-0 winner, we win the league.
Oh yeah, 1-1's not going to get us a league title, is it, mate?
Yeah, we're going to win the league.
Right, check. Bet365 is getting loaded up as we speak.
100-1. Can I just?
That's not on me.
I'll chuck in. Do you know what? I'm going to go 0-0. I'm going to go absolute ball draw.
I can see it. Like I say, it's going to be interesting because I think we will get chances because it's a game they have to come and, well, not come, but they have to be on the front foot and win.
Yeah. Do you know, though, I think if we get news early doors that things are definitely not going our way. So, like, if Brackley go 2-0 up inside 20, I just think Butler might switch to a more, let's not get Whitehall injured, let's not get a key player injured.
Yeah, I'm dragging Roberts, Whitehall, Beeston off. I'd make 5 subs at our time. I genuinely would. It's just, and I've seen a few.
There you go. Mason Campbell, you're on.
No worries, boss. But yeah, look, it's
I'm going to be like that Mike Bassett, football manager. It's like, this lad's scoring all these goals. Yes,
that was an interesting one. No goalkeeper on the bench on Monday.
Yeah. He's bottled it, hasn't he?
And then when Fitzsimmons went down, it was, oh my days.
Yeah, but I got crucified for saying I didn't like us putting a keeper on the bench when we did, because to me it just showed that there was nerves there and a bit of worry, whereas we've not done that all season. Well, but look, and I was right, because on Monday when there's sort of nothing really riding on it, he didn't have the goalkeeper on the bench. And
yeah,
me,
but he explained that, didn't he?
And look, but I think that filters through the team, where the manager's showing them nerves that look, we maybe need. It's getting a bit serious now. He's obviously looked at the league, so look, I didn't like that. I think you've made your bed now. You've not done it all season, and it's worked. So keep going. Have the extra player on the bench.
But would you play him for the playoffs? Surely you would.
Who?
You'd have a keeper on the bench for the playoffs, yeah?
No, I don't think I would.
Mate, that is insane. There's
Well,
no second chances in a one-off game. There are no second chances in a one-off game.
But look how brutal the league is. There's no second chance of this league. We could have been top. We're lucky to get the second chance of a playoff. But to me, look, how often has Fitzsimmons got injured this season?
Never.
Look, to me, you make your bed. Boyce is a cracking second keeper. It was funny because when Fitzsimmons did go down, I saw Butler turn to Boyce, and you could just see Boyce start laughing, and I thought, surely not.
Campbell would have been fuming, wouldn't he? You know, if Fitzsimmons had got injured and Boyce is coming on. It's like,
and look, I do get it, and I know how ridiculous it sounds, but I am just speaking from if I saw my manager starting to change it and starting to worry, I do think that filters down. It's just some mental aspects where I do think it would have had an effect on the team.
Maybe he did look at the table. Who knows? Right, let's call it to a close this week. Thank you for joining us, Ben. Appreciate that. And what's this? Is this like appearance number 7?
It's edging towards double figures.
Yeah, listen, mate.
2 match balls.
Yeah. Oh, he's got 2 balls. Don't worry about that.
Oh God.
That was the test before we got him on the pod.
Believe me.
And he passed with flying colours. Let me tell you. Thanks for coming on, and again, Marco, it's a pleasure as always. Is that beer number 2, 3?
It's 2. It's my night off my diet this week, so I'm going to watch the darts final, and I'm going to have 3 or 4 beers.
No worries, mate. Love that. Right, thank you for listening to the INR podcast as always. We'll see you next week, probably, as we preview
as league champions.
No, probably not. As we preview the playoffs, maybe. Or maybe, just maybe, we're talking about the most special day in Scunthorpe United's history. Who knows? Until then, up the iron.